Welcome to New Life Live, the premier place to receive free advice from Christian psychologists and counselors for the mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual challenges you face. Since 1988, we've offered compassionate responses that combine God's truth with proven psychological principles to guide you toward healing. Our phone lines are open. Call us now at 1-800-229-3000.
Welcome to New Life Live. We're so glad that you're with us today. Chris Williams, licensed marriage and family therapist. I also have another licensed marriage and family therapist, Marc Cameron, with me today. And I have our licensed psychologist, Dr. Alice Benton.
The oddball.
Well, no, the advanced expert. So, as an advanced expert, Alice, tell us, what's on your mind today?
I'm starting with a question. In comparison to past generations, and in light of wanting to protect our children's innocence, do we need to teach our children sooner about homosexuality and transgenderism?
That's a great question. My short answer is yes, not knowing specifically about what sooner actually means. But what I'm just noticing is that their exposure to it is more and more and more. And the issue of human sexuality, and all of the things that surround it in our modern culture and our modern times, is it being inundated on a daily basis. And so I do believe that those discussions have to start early and have to be more often probably than they were in generations past.
Yeah, I think we do, because our kids these days are being exposed at just such early ages, oftentimes not even in schools, but just through TV shows and things like that. And so I would say starting at an age-appropriate level, probably just with the basics of talking about, God made us as male and female, and affirming them in their sexual identity, as their gender, I mean.
And I would add to that, if we are letting our children read books from the library, watching mainstream cartoons, or if they have access to the internet, or friends that do, they will be exposed no matter how young they are. And so I completely agree. We have to talk about it because the culture wants our children to find out about these topics. And although I think some people do it in the heart and spirit of wanting to normalize, wanting acceptance and tolerance for anybody with gender identity or homosexuality, it may be a good motivation that this is entering into our children's books and cartoons, but I think unfortunately some of it is becoming a glorified and celebrated invitation to our children to experiment. My daughter was reading a run-of-the-mill comic book the other day, and there were two characters who were married women in the book, married to each other. And so presenting what God asks of us while teaching that we're all called to love other people, and we're all sinners. No matter what our sin is, we all fall short. But what does God ask of us, and what does he want our children to live out? And so when we do this as parents, we should be willing to be humble about our own imperfections. This is not about judgment, but it's about trying to teach our children that God gave us guardrails to keep us safe. It may feel like a limitation, it may feel like a demand from God, but it is simply his desire to keep us safe and on the path that's going to be most life-giving for us.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think one of the things that's just really complicated in this is that it's gotten very, very complicated. And in light of that, these conversations are really important. But here's the thing that I find over and over and over again. In all of the talk and discussion around gender and sexuality, there's one glaring gap that is profound, and that is relational health. And it just amazes me that we're not talking more about what makes healthy relationship. And Marc, how important is that?
Oh, it's everything. I mean, learning what healthy relationship looked like sets the balance and it's the greatest predictor of how our relationships will be in the future.
Well, I want secure and confident children, and I know that their security and confidence is directly correlated to their relational health. That is what here at New Life is at our heartbeat, is to help you find greater and greater relational health and strength. And we're going to keep doing that right after this.
I had been in porn addiction. My past had not been found out at all, yet I had hit a point in my life where it was time.
Men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. The Everyman's Battle Intensive can help.
I never divulged what I'd been doing.
Find help today at New Life's Everyman's Battle Intensive.
This is a place that changed my life in such a positive way for Christ, because I could be the Christian man that I'm called to be.
Now the intensive is coming to Dallas, Texas, December 6th through the 8th. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50.
I cannot say enough what it does in the Christian community for not just men, for their children, for their wives.
1-800-NEW-LIFE and the discount code NLL. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. We are so glad that you are with us today, and we're going to go right to the phones. We're going to go to Gloria in Scottsdale, Arizona, listening on the internet. Gloria, tell us what's going on today.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for taking my call. So there was a word that you used that just really identified my relationship with my husband. It was relational health. And so our relation, my husband's and my relational health is declining, and I don't know how to save it. And just a little backstory is, he'll tell me things, and there's no infidelity. He looks at my phone, I look at his, we get on each other's computer, I trust him completely. It's just that as he's getting older, I see like this anger surfacing. And then he's not telling me, he doesn't tell me a full story. So I have to question, well, okay, that kind of doesn't make sense. I don't say that to him, but I'm thinking that. And then as I'm questioning him, he's feeling as though I'm treating him like a child. He gets angry, and then we go nowhere until the next event. So this is happening over and over and over again.
Gloria, can I ask how old you guys are?
We're over 50.
Over 50. Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, has he been evaluated for any potential mental decline?
No, he hasn't. I noticed that when he it seems like it's only with me though. I'm seeing him around other people, and it's not like that with other people. But with me, it's just, he gets angry.
And Gloria, this anger is a change, right? Historically, he was not an angry man with you?
It is a change. It is a change.
Do you know of any substance use, or has there been a major medical event that might have exacerbated this in him?
No, he's never smoked cigarettes, never did drugs, did alcohol when he was younger, but once he got saved, never touched it again, and that's been over, 30 years.
And so, Gloria, if you've been able to ask him, I'm noticing you seem to have a shorter fuse with me. What's going on between us? What am I doing that's more agitating to you than it used to be between us? Do you have any, guess, what his answer would be, or has he been able to tell you?
I know what his answer is. He says, you don't let me finish my sentences. And you don't allow me to complete my statements. And I can say that I've been guilty of that, and I'm working on that. But the thing is I think we need counseling, and he does not want to. He's like, I'm done with counselors. I don't want anyone going in my childhood and talking about I don't want to do that. And I just feel, so I'm learning how to, I don't want to say this is the way it's going to be accepted. I'm not like that. I'm a fighter. I'm like, Lord, show me what to do, how to do it. I've seen where other women's like, honey, just let him be how he is, and you just do your thing. No,
you're not going to settle for that. You could have better for both of you, and you're not willing to settle for this. So, Gloria, are you getting your own therapy as you're working on yourself and letting him finish his sentences?
No.
So it may be that you entering therapy, even though he obviously needs it too, but he's not willing right now. But if you would tell him, you know what, I'm thinking about this, and you're right, I've got this conversational flow problem, so I'm going to go see a therapist. You're sick of it. I'm not. You know I'm a fighter. I'm going to go in and get therapy, and I want you to give me a list of other things I'm doing that are agitating you. Or have there been ruptures in our relationship that I didn't do enough repair work on because I want to work on myself because I know there could be more happiness for us in our marriage? How do you think he'd react if you told him you were going to do that?
He would give me the silent treatment.
He'd give you the silent treatment if you told him that you were going to work on your stuff and you invited him to give you feedback on what he'd like you to work on. He would be silent?
Yep. Absolutely.
That's confusing. You
that
just baffled us with that one.
Yeah,
Gloria.
that is really confusing. Yeah. Do you...
Because you know why? Because internally, what I've learned about him, that even when I'm working on him, on me, he relates it to something about him. Mm-hmm. It always goes back to something he's not doing, should have done. I'm this way because he didn't do what he should have. And I told him, I can't control your self-talk, and I don't know where that's coming from. So you're not. It's baffling.
Yeah, that is hard, and you might have to start the conversation by just acknowledging that. I know in the past that it has been unsafe for you emotionally because when I've asked you about things, I have related them back to things that you're not doing in you, and but I'm really asking for me. And so I just want to invite you, and if you don't have a thought about it now, please think about it.
And Gloria, consider, this may be more about him, but consider if you've been overly critical, overly bossy, if you bring up more negative about him than positive. I wonder if you've ever heard this. There's a magic ratio for relationships that we all need about 5 positives in order to metabolize and receive 1 critique about ourselves. But we all lopside that, and we give each other so much more critique than positive feedback. And so if that has been your pattern, you might front load your declaration that you're going back into therapy with, I know I've also been these ways, so I don't even think it's safe for you to hear that I'm going into therapy because you assume I'm just going to be critical about you because I have been. And so you don't even have to say anything, but I'm going in to do this work on myself. If you ever feel safe to give me that list, I am open to it.
Gloria, throughout your marriage, has he been more of a silent partner, somebody who would just go with the flow?
Yes.
Yeah. So I see this with people who have a pleaser attachment style is oftentimes it's not until midlife will they push back after giving and giving and giving and not receiving in like. Eventually people often get resentful and the resentment builds up and then they end up getting angry and then they push back. And I wonder if that's what's happening with your husband right now.
I think so. That sounds reasonable.
Yeah, Mark, it really makes a lot of sense. And me being a pleaser, that's what we do. We please until you're not pleased, and then we're mad.
Right.
That you're not pleased.
And each couple, Gloria, has a core pattern. You know, when 2 people come together, I know your husband's not willing to go back and look at his past history, but past history shapes us. That's the way human brains work. You know, we learn from experience, and we can't help that, and we can't change that. And so when 2 people come together with past histories, those 2 histories collide, and it creates a predictable core pattern.
Well, and he's also carrying an indicator of a traumatic history.
Because he doesn't want to go back there. When people don't want to go back to their history, it's because there's pain.
And there's another big tell here, and that is he assumes negative responsibility. And so so that means that he is working with an internal shame filter. That sounds something like not good enough, unworthy, don't matter, something like that, so that every incident is internalized and interpreted through this filter or this lens that he's wearing. So when he wakes up in the morning and he puts on his not good enough glasses, guess what he's going to see? So if you have something to work on, he's going to say, well, that means I'm not a good enough husband. So even you working on something is a threat to him because it affirms this message. And I tell you, man, those messages, Gloria, they come from our unresolved pain of our past.
Yeah, the fact that you're just a fighter, that you don't settle, even that is probably a reflection for him on his character. He's not a fighter. He does settle. He does avoid. He's kind of willing to accept status quo, and that's not his wife. So your achievement, unfortunately, might be hard for him to be around and to swallow. Gloria, one of the safest structures for conversation I have ever found is the comfort circle, which is in Milan and Kate Yurkovich's book, How We Love. And I think your husband would probably feel an initial opposition to it, but I want you to get to know the comfort circle if you don't already. I want you to become the safest person you can emotionally and ask him if he'd be willing for you to be his listener in a comfort circle after you figure it out. And I want you to practice it with your therapist and maybe with a safe friend. Now, even if he initially declines to do it, if you keep showing up in a very safe, humble way, it may eventually break through his defenses.
You know, and I think that's really, really good. You become the safe connector. You become what we call the secure attacher or attachment. And again, that's exactly where you let off from the comment that you heard us talk about healthy relationship. And that's what all of this is about. Now, your husband has what I call a default system. We typically have one or two ways in which we go under stress and conflict. Some of us ramp up, and that looks like criticism and anger and control. And basically our energy goes up and our fight goes up. The other default system is a passive system. That's where we sort of shut down and we go silent and we withdraw and we isolate. Sounds like he is on that passive default. And what I want...
Well, it sounds like he's flipping from that passive default to more anger.
If he gets trapped in it or confronted in it, then he'll flip, because both are available to all of us, because they're both all a function of fight, flight, freeze. And so the flighters and the freezers go in the passive route and the fighters go in the aggressive route. And so in that dance of passive aggressive, that becomes very, very confusing, as I can only imagine how confused you are, Gloria, in the midst of all of this. I would maybe throw it out there as not one last ditch effort, but just saying, like, our relationship means the world to me. You mean the world to me. You know, I'm struggling in this, but I'm not going anywhere. But could you give me 48 hours at an intensive to help us work through this so we can become better at being with each other? Do you think he would have any chance of going for that, Gloria?
Yeah, I think he would.
Oh.
Yeah, that would be great. Because if you guys can get to our intimacy and marriage workshop, I think it could do that 48 hours could do wonders. Because I know this to be true. The body wants to reveal its truth. Our experience wants to reveal its truth. But oftentimes our shame and our pain from our past make it terrifying. All we need is a really, really safe place to do it. And we've seen it over and over and over again. In our intensives and weekends, we see that we can provide a safe place for people to say what's really going on inside of them in their lives, and really getting to work on what is actually going on, rather than taking guesses, or what we can see in marriages, going off on all these rabbit trails that only have painful dead ends.
And how many years have you been married, Gloria?
30.
30 years. Yeah, and so that's a lot of history between the two of you also. You've got your prior histories, now you've got 30 years of history between the two of you. And so it's going to take some consistency, probably more than 30 days of consistency to overcome 30 years. It's going to take some time. And so I like what Alice was saying here about you learning to give him affirmations. And if he's been more of the servant of meeting your needs, maybe looking, how can I meet his needs for a period of time so that he can see that I'm being consistent and growth is happening inside of me, and then it doesn't feel like it's been lopsided for a long period, but he can see that it's starting to balance out now.
Yeah, I think that's really good. So Gloria,
now that sounds great, but this is the kicker. I meet his needs. He doesn't meet mine.
Well, and I think
I do.
Well, Gloria, but Gloria, let me jump in here.
But I also wonder what his perspective on that is
Yeah.
too, Gloria, if he feels like he's been meeting all of your needs and you haven't been meeting his.
Yeah, and I think you guys have been missing each other all these years. I think you've been trying and missing and then find yourselves in this really frustrated place. So we're going to send you a copy of How We Love, and I cannot encourage you guys enough to attend our Intimacy and Marriage Weekend. You know,
We read How We Love together.
Okay.
We read it.
Have you practiced it?
Identify who we are.
Okay, well,
And are you the vacillator and the pleaser?
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Well, let's do this, Gloria. Get it to the next step. Get into our intensive, and that weekend again will supercharge this process, and you guys already have a head start on it. So Gloria, thank you so much for calling in today. We know that marriages need tune-ups all the time. We need help all the time, and we're here to help. We'll be back right after this.
When you give to the New Life Scholarship Fund, you're giving someone hope for a brighter future.
I was kind of in the closet and hit with my struggle. Your donation really made the difference, especially in my situation, because I would up getting laid off from my job.
At the New Life Intensives, hurting people are able to begin a new path towards healing and freedom that has an effect on all of those around them.
I think the people who support New Life financially are people that I'll never know. You know, I'll never be able to thank them personally for the gift that they gave to us. Their giving saved me, my husband, and our family from being torn apart.
To help hurting people to connect to the help they need, make your gift to the Scholarship Fund at newlife.com or by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE and specifying scholarships.
Someone called and sponsored me to come this weekend. Whoever that is, just know that you saved a life. Literally, you saved my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for your life and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. We are so glad that you're with us today. You know, throughout the year, we just mentioned Intimacy and Marriage Intensive. We hold these weekend intensives all over the country, even online, and these provide a jump start to healing. We provide help for men struggling with sexual integrity, women who have been wounded by sexual betrayal, those who are emotionally stuck, and provide help for your marriage. You know, these are so transformational and so helpful. And you get this main session where you're going to hear great information and speakers, but the real unbelievable work happens in these group breakout sessions. And so if you want help in your healing journey, then visit us. Go to the events tab on newlife.com for the upcoming dates and locations for our weekends and intensives.
It can both save a marriage moving to divorce, but it also upgrades a good marriage and refines a great marriage.
Yeah, our intimacy and marriage. And you know, I always say this: people are oftentimes waiting for the right time, for instance, to get into for women to get to a restore weekend, or men to get to an every man's battle weekend. And I'm like, there is no right time. The only right time is right now.
Yes.
And so go to newlife.com, check out our events page, and look for our upcoming dates and locations. We're going to go back to the phones. We're going to go to Mercedes in Princeton, New Jersey, who is a viewer and listener on YouTube. Mercedes, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Thank you for calling in. What's going on, and how can we help you?
I am calling for my my friend's son.
Uh-huh.
He's 17, and since he was a child, he's really a neat person, which was nice when he was younger. But now that he's older, he cleans everything, does everything overly excessively, that it's getting in the way of his schoolwork. He doesn't go to bed early because he's washing all the dishes, and then he sleeps in the morning, and he doesn't take the bus. The parents want to drive him to school, but then he's so late. But Mom and Dad would leave, but Dad would always come back and take him back to school. Mom thinks there's something wrong, so they've made an appointment with the psychologist, but he would not go. Then the pediatrician said to see a psychiatrist, so they saw him, and he ordered Zoloft because he's 16. They asked him, he said he would take it, but now they got home, he said he wouldn't take it. But the psychiatrist said that that's the only way that he can actually sit down quietly for somebody to evaluate him. So I just wanted to know if you have any tools that I can give them to help them, because Mom and Dad are not on the same page. Dad thinks that he's just being a rascal and just not being obedient and not following, following adults' prompts. So he gets disciplined a lot. There's 2 other children. He's the middle child. He gets disciplined a lot, which he doesn't think there's anything wrong. He doesn't see there's anything wrong with him. But Mom thinks there's something wrong with him, but Dad doesn't think so. So they're not on the same page on that front, but Mom seriously thinks there's something wrong. I just want to get some tools to help them, because if he wouldn't go, maybe there would be some behavior modification that they could do in the home that would help him at least calm down some, so that he would be willing to go see the psychologist to be evaluated.
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, you're building a good picture, and so we're just drawing from the picture that you're building here, and we know there may be other dynamics at play. But it's interesting that the dad thinks he's disobedient, but then I'm hearing you say that he's staying up late to do these chores and things like that. And it seems like, from what you're saying, is Dad is interpreting disobedience as him not speaking up and him refusing to follow directions. And it sounds like this kid has, I would guess, some form of obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, which is anxiety driven. And now he's a middle child, and oftentimes, you've heard of something called middle child syndrome, I'm sure, where the middle child, they're squeezed between the older kids and the younger kids, and they get the least amount of attention, and oftentimes they can become peacemakers in the family. And it sounds like he doesn't have a voice. He's learned not to have a voice, and I wonder if parents are overprotecting him. They don't allow him to get the bus. They insist on driving him to school. And kids need to have a certain amount of stress in order to be able to build resilience. They need to be able to have a voice and be asked questions on their opinions, and they need to be allowed to differentiate if they are going to grow up and have a voice in adulthood, because at 17 years old, he can't tell the psychiatrist, I don't really want to take that, because he's too fearful. And it sounds like in the presence of his parents to disappoint others.
Yeah, he doesn't. He refused to take the bus since high school. He just didn't want to take the bus because the bus comes very early, but he takes about 2 hours to brush his teeth. That's another thing. So he's always going to miss the bus anyway. So they said they would take him, but then he's never ready when he has to go, so he's like 2 hours late for school.
Mercedes, we all, I think, are suspecting that there's something deeper that is driving the behaviors, the teeth brushing, the cleaning. And I would have the mom ask him, tell me some of the things that you're afraid of, son. Whether it's in thinking about seeing the psychiatrist or the therapist, what do you feel anxious about with doing that? What are you worried will happen? And how are your late mornings starting to affect you? Is it costing you in any way? Is it impairing your ability to do as well as you want to in school? So I'd start asking some of these therapeutic questions to try to get him to open up. And then I'd advise your friend that she, and hopefully her husband, if he's willing, should go in to start family therapy as just the parents, having several sessions so that they can start to understand what's happening with their son, and that they can be equipped of how to respond to whether part of it is disobedience and part of it might be a mental health disorder. The parents need the therapeutic support in order to better strategize how to get their son into therapeutic support.
Yeah, because I think we really need a diagnosis here, because something's going on. We have symptoms that are clear as far as 2 hours brushing teeth.
But allowing your kid to brush their teeth for 2 hours is an overprotection.
For sure. Yeah, it's an overprotection. So, but he also may have that compulsion to blow right through that boundary. But we'll talk more about this right after the break.
I had been in porn addiction. My past had not been found out at all, yet I had hit a point in my life where it was time.
Men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. The Everyman's Battle Intensive can help.
I never divulged what I'd been doing.
Find help today at New Life's Everyman's Battle Intensive.
This is a place that changed my life in such a positive way for Christ, because I could be the Christian man that I'm called to be.
Now the intensive is coming to Orange County, California, November 1st through the 3rd. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50.
I cannot say enough what it does in the Christian community for not just men, for their children, for their wives.
1-800-NEW-LIFE and the discount code NLL.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. We're so glad that you have joined us today. We have been talking with Mercedes, whose friend's son is really struggling. The family sounds like they're struggling, and it sounds like he has behaviors and symptoms that are consistent with anxiety disorder specifically, or potentially OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder.
Well, and what's going to be hard to address this with him if mom and dad are at odds, if they're trying to take two different approaches. He's not going to buy into a consistency of how to move forward, because if my parents can't agree, well, maybe I'm right too.
Yeah.
How do I know that I'm wrong? And it sounds like here mom may be a little bit more permissive, and I don't know if dad's more authoritarian or if he's just tired of the status quo of how things are and he's wanting to push for some change.
Well, in Mercedes, here's what we do know about kids, and he's well into his adolescence, coming into young adulthood. But Mark, you mentioned that he doesn't have a voice. I think it's important because his voice is his behavior right now.
Yeah.
And all we know is that something significant, his behavior is significant, so there's something significant going on with him. And from what you're telling us, Mercedes, I think that whether they're willing to do this or not, the next course of action is a thorough psychological evaluation. Because if you have a significant or legitimate diagnosis, then everyone could get on the same page about what this is and what to do about it, and be aligned on the course of treatment and growth that this boy needs.
There are clinicians who will start with a phone or a video conference session for somebody whose very diagnosis may be keeping them at home, unable to get to the office for the session. And so we can help you find a clinician in our network who's willing to start off that way and who has expertise in dealing with anxiety disorders. I'd also have the parents consider they might have to restrict some of the privileges he enjoys until he's willing to attend a session, or reward him if he is willing to attend the session. So we need to use these behavioral modification tools with our kids sometimes to get them to do the thing they refuse to do.
Absolutely. Well, Mercedes, thank you so much for calling in today. We hope that this is helpful. I would even suggest having them listen back to this show, going on and checking out our podcast to be able to re-listen to it. And even if they want to call in, have them call in. We'd love to give them some guidance and direction. We're going to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back, and trust that that's going to bless you. And again, Mercedes, thank you so much for calling in today. We're going to go back to the phones. We're going to go to Susie in San Clemente, California, who listens on KKLA. Susie, how you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad to talk to you.
Thanks. Yeah. You ready for my question?
I'm ready. Fire away.
Nothing new under the sun here. My 18-year-old daughter, I found her boyfriend in her room last night. He had spent the night. The door had been locked, so she's still at home for another semester. Was planning to stay even through junior college. She graduates in December, and I'm just wondering if I'm navigating it correctly.
How have you addressed it since last night?
Yeah, so I talked with them both immediately and told her, my husband's on a business trip, so some of this happened via text with him, but told her that when she had been warned that she had been breaking curfew and stuff, so we were going to stop paying for half of her car payment, and we were going to, she bought her phone back. I was no longer going to be paying for her phone bill. And so that's the first two immediate consequences.
And how has she responded so far?
A lot of blame on, Dad made me buy a too expensive of a car. That was one thing that came out. And she did say she apologized that it was a lapse in judgment, quote unquote. She did look for a minute yesterday about, moving out, but, Orange County prices for an 18-year-old are a little hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's still in high school, I think what you're saying, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's hard when they turn 18 in the middle of high school, because all of a sudden they get certain rights given to them by the law. And this is a hard one, because if she wants to have sex with her boyfriend, she can have sex with him. You can't necessarily stop that, but what you can do is you can limit opportunities that these kinds of things would happen in your home. And so
I did change the curfew. Sorry, that was the other big thing. Weeknight it's now 10. Friday, Saturday it's 11, which she was quite upset about. Yeah,
I mean, they're still teenagers. My kids are both 19, so I get this age too, and they still are dependents upon you. They still rely upon you for certain things. And so I think you're taking the right course of action in terms of saying, like, okay, these are some of the privileges that we offer you living in our home. And if you can't respect the rules, then we're going to have to take some of those privileges away, because we're not obligated to give them to you. So that's part of it. I think the other part of it is just to sit down and build relationship and have a discussion, and to maybe even acknowledge, hey, you're 18, you're getting older, you're going to have the ability to make these decisions. But what most concerns me is character building and our relationship. And we need to learn to have trust with each other, and we need to have openness and transparency. And if you want to make adult decisions, that's fine, as long as you are taking adult responsibilities too. And if you don't have the capacity to take adult responsibilities, then you have to look at how you're dependent upon us and what rules that we have for our household. And quite frankly, this is the way two adults have a conversation. So you're teaching her how to have an adult conversation when you do this. And I wonder if you can show her that you're seeing her as a young adult, a young fledgling adult, if that will be the spark for her to start to see that she needs to start to take some adult responsibilities.
Susie, I'm proud of you that you're so quickly addressing this, and that there need to be consequences. There's got to be some teeth to the boundaries. And so I'm so glad you're already doing that, and so quickly. I'll add just a few other things. I'd ask you to share humbly if you've ever been imperfect in this area yourself, and I'd want your husband to do the same. sexual imperfection, disobedience to your parents, anything along those lines is helpful so that your daughter knows we're all a bunch of sinners together trying to figure this out. And it's so tough in young love not to go down this road. And most of us did. Most of us have. I hope your husband will also reach out to talk to the boyfriend. And this can be done in a couple of different ways. It can be to acknowledge that he trespassed overnight and to ask him to respect the household boundaries. It should also be done out of friendship and desire for your husband to build relationship with him, which is pretty tough to do in this kind of situation. But relationship between those two men will be protective of your daughter. And then in addition to the good consequences you've already given, I'd have you offer your daughter active ways to rebuild trust. So we do need to remove privileges, but then you can rebuild trust by having a family session with me and Dad, by writing out a well thought out apology, by reading a book that New Life can recommend to you, and that we might discuss that together and discuss it with your boyfriend. So action she can take to actively rebuild trust.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Okay, so Susie, I'm going to take it in a little bit different direction.
Sure.
Okay, when you discipline your daughter, how often is it tied to a financial consequence or a privilege?
That financial piece has been real recent.
Okay, good.
I think, yeah. Privilege, like watching TV, that's always sort of been there, you know, even since young.
That makes sense. I only check in with that because oftentimes it was going to really emphasize that relational trust aspect that Marc and Alice were referring to, is that we're not trying to control your behavior. We're trying to set boundaries that work best for us in our home, as well as what we think works best for you. But in doing that, we know that there can be challenges and hard feelings and hurt feelings, and the ability to work through those things. Because I'm also looking at this as well from, this could be one of those precipitating events that allows those tough conversations, but essential conversations into what does it mean to become an adult in today's world. Like taking over more financial responsibility, not necessarily just as a consequence, but as a reality of moving into this next phase of your life. Mm-hmm. So I really like that frame of it too.
Well, and I would ask her the question too, how are you going to build trust back with me?
Yeah.
And if she doesn't have a good answer, say, sit with that, come back and let me know. Because she's an emerging adult. And when you betray someone's trust, you have to build trust back. And the more you treat her like a child, the more she's going to push back to show you that she's an adult. So start to have adult conversations with her and hold her to that expectation.
Absolutely. Susie, I'm sure this call helps not just you, but so many other people that are parenting teens. And we're going to send you Boundaries with Teens by Cloud and Townsend, and know that will be a great guide to navigate some of these difficult, rough waters into young adulthood and our kids' decisions. So, Susie, thanks for calling in, and we're going to be back right after this.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. Club New Life changes lives.
You guys came along into my life in 2022, That was a really, really difficult year of my life.
You can help New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people by joining Club New Life today.
I began to really process a lot of things that I've needed to for a long time, and y'all were a very big part of that.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
I came out of it having never experienced anything like that, and y'all were there.
Join today and help continue the message of hope to a troubled world.
I knew I had to keep going, and I joined Club New Life, and y'all have been the resource that has now been a light for my wife and I.
Go to newlife.com/CNL, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places.
Keep doing what you do because it makes a difference.
newlife.com/CNL. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. We are so glad that you are with us. We have this amazing thing called Club New Life, and Club New Life is our reoccurring membership and donation that allows monthly givers, and it is such a support to the ministry. We also want it to be such a support to you as well. One of our Club New Life members wrote in and she said, I listen to New Life every morning on my way to work. It has become part of my morning ritual. The moment I turn on the podcast, my anxiety about the day starts to fade away as I lean into God's Word through wisdom and the radio team to apply the gospel to everyday life and human experiences. A couple of years ago, she says, I made a plan to end my life. But with the financial support of our family's church, I was able to receive therapy that surely saved my life. The ministry of New Life Live continues to help me stay close to God's Word and His intention for my life. I hope that my small monthly contribution is helpful to someone else that may be in a similar spot in their life, and that they may come to realize their life is worth living. Absolutely. That is why we do this show. That is why we do this ministry. And your partnership allows us to keep doing it. So join Club New Life. Go on to go on to newlife.com, or there is even a clubnewlife.com website as well. And you can donate, be a member of that club, and we have a Zoom seminar coming up here in November that for our Club New Lifers, and it will be a great time together. And again, it's such an important part of our ministry and our financial partnership with you. We're going to go to one final call today. We're going to go to Tim in Washington, D.C., listening on WAVA. Tim, how's it going today?
Well, I guess it's going as best as could be expected. I just had some general questions because I don't, want to take up a lot of time. I'm like 70 years old, so I'm up in age, and I have some health issues. But I've really been kind of battling some depression for the last couple of years or so. Part of it is that I'm a single person, and I come from a large family. And unfortunately, of course, most of my family was brothers. I had one sister, but, in the age group, I was like in the middle age group. But, at my age and whatever, the last few years especially, I've lost some of my relatives. And especially what kind of hit me bad was my mom passed away. A couple of years ago or so. But, throughout my life, I've had periods of depression, but it's been kind of weird compared to, I guess, what I would read about other people. In other words, there would be periods where I would really get down pretty bad, but I could fight through it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And 4 or 5, 6 months later, believe it or not, for whatever reason, and I believe, God plays a part in everything, obviously. I certainly have Christian belief. I accept the Bible and everything, but I've had struggles in my life. I've had struggles with, lots of different things. but sometimes struggle with assurance and things like that with regard to salvation or whatever. But the point is, I guess, when I've had other depressive periods, I've been able to kind of fight through them, and somehow it's weird to say this, but somehow they would kind of eventually I just get on top of it, and and after 6-7 months.
But what's going?
I would use.
But what? Just for time's sake, what's going on right now, and how can we help you?
Well, I guess the best thing I wanted to the biggest thing I want to ask is I never heard of this years ago before, but I've heard a lot more of it lately in sort of the psychiatric profession and whatnot, of something what they call sort of named a derealization. And I'm kind of struggling with that, and it seems like perhaps that's just a symptom or whatever, but that's a big symptom, and all of this has actually hurt my sleep cycle. Of course, in the past, I have used antidepressants. I got to take low doses of everything just because of.
So Tim, Tim, let me jump in because I want us to be able to answer your question. Yeah. So the question for us is with disrealization, with depression, what do I do now?
Well, Tim, there are different forms of depression. Yours sounds episodic, where you have it for a period of time. You're often able to overcome it, but perhaps these last couple of years, it's been more of a chronic version where you didn't get out of it as easily as you have in the past, even though it's always been difficult. There's also a form of depression called dysthymia, which is a low-level depression that seems to be there almost constantly. If you've tried antidepressants in the past, they have the class of medication has so improved over the years. I would highly recommend that you consider trying medication again, get a full medication evaluation. But really, so many different forms of therapy, talk therapy, are also really helpful for depression. Whether you get into something like eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or grief therapy with the losses that you have been through, talk therapy, medication, and group therapy with other men, particularly other men who have gone through losses and are going through a period of grief. Any one of those and the combination of them are very powerful for treatment of depression.
Yeah, and what I would add here, Tim, if you have recurrent episodic depression, which it sounds like you have, sometimes nothing brings that on, but sometimes something does bring that on. And what you were talking about here is that you've had a lot of losses in the last few years. So it makes sense why your depression would be brought on. And so it sounds like you've actually been in prolonged grief for a period of time, losing family members, losing your mom. These are significant losses here, and I wonder if that's just kind of being in that state, if that's what's leading to the derealization, which is things just don't seem like they're real to you in the present moment. I wonder if checking out a different type of antidepressant might be helpful, but also joining a grief group to start to talk through and process through the losses that you've had.
Yeah, Marc, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Disrealization and grief go hand in hand. And the griefs that you've been through, Tim, are not lightweight. They're significant. And any vulnerabilities that we have, whether it be anxiety, depression, maybe other mood disorders, if you put grief on top of it, it really, really exacerbates it. It really...
and with death, it's a particular type of grief. We call it bereavement because it's so strong in that moment. So that would make sense why things are so tough right now.
Yeah.
And the natural tendency, Tim, is to shut down, to pull away. And if you said you're single, if you're already isolated, that combination exacerbates depression so much. And the answer, and God's answer, is to get into healthy, stable relationships and talk about what you have been through.
So I want to encourage you, Tim, to check out Grief Share. And so a lot of churches have Grief Share, which is a grief recovery group that you can get into hopefully right away. We're also going to send you a copy of the Life Recovery Workbook for Grief. And I can't encourage you enough to stay on the line. Let us connect you with a counselor in your area, because from the sounds of it, Tim, you really are suffering. And when it comes to depression or any other mental illness, we want to take it very, very seriously. Want to guide you into the help that you need. So, Tim, thank you so much for calling in today. Thank the rest of you for being with us. And future shows, give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. We'd love to talk to you. Thank you so again for being with us. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Alice. And everyone, be well.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE, but when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.